Hey everyone, welcome back to the Deep Dive. What have you recently sent us a book that really got us thinking? And it's called Unlocking Wealth: Secrets to Getting Rich at Any Age by Rohit Sarin.
Yeah, the title's pretty bold, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to unlock wealth?
Exactly. And today, we're going to do a deep dive into this book and try to pull out the most useful, actionable insights for you.
So Saren has these 7 core chapters in the book. And one thing that really stood out to me was this underlying message.
Okay, what's that?
It's the idea that building wealth is not just this thing for financial gurus or people with tons of money. It's really about developing good habits, making smart choices about your money, and then taking consistent action over time.
Makes sense. So are we going to break down each of those 7 chapters?
We are, and we'll highlight what we think are the most valuable takeaways for everyone listening.
Awesome. So let's get started with chapter 1.
Chapter 1 is called The Compounding Miracle. Now, we've all probably heard about the power of compounding, but Sarin really brings it to life. He emphasizes why starting early can have such a huge impact in the long run.
Okay, I'm interested. How does he do that?
Well, he does this really clever comparison. He imagines 2 people, Ria and Aman, both investing the same amount of money, $5,000 every month. They both get a 12% return, which is, hypothetical, but illustrates the point.
Right.
The difference is that Ria starts at age 25, while Aman waits until he's 35.
So it's all about the time in the market.
Exactly. And by the time they both hit 50, the difference is pretty shocking. Ria has over 1 crore, Aman, only around 40 lakhs.
Oh, that's a huge difference for just a 10-year head start.
It is. And it really drives home Saren's point. Time is probably your most valuable asset when it comes to building wealth.
Okay, so that extra decade, Ria had allowed her returns to generate more returns, and then those returns generated even more returns.
Exactly. That's compounding in action.
So I guess the takeaway here is even if you're starting small, the sooner you start, the more time your money has to grow.
That's the beauty of it, right? It doesn't have to be huge sums. Consistent investing over time, that's the key.
Definitely makes you think about where you are in your own timeline, right?
Absolutely. And what starting even with a little bit today could mean for your future, I think a lot of people get hung up on waiting for the right time or the perfect amount to start.
It's easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's next?
Chapter 2 dives into something I think we've all struggled with. It's titled Ego versus Self-Respect in Money Decisions.
Okay, that's an interesting title. What's that all about?
Well, Sarin really gets into the psychology of our spending. He contrasts spending that's driven by ego, like trying to impress others.
Right, keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly.
Huh.
With spending that comes from a place of self-respect, spending that's actually aligned with your long-term goals and well-being.
So buying things you truly value and need versus buying things just to show off?
Yeah. And he illustrates this with a scenario. Imagine Rahul, who buys a fancy luxury car to project this image of success.
Okay.
And then there's Neha. She decides to stick with her reliable, slightly older car, and she invests the difference.
Okay, so what happens?
Well, fast forward a few years, and Rahul's dealing with a depreciating asset, and he's probably still making loan payments.
Right, while Neha's investments have been steadily growing.
Exactly. So it really makes you question those purchases. Are they really adding value to your life, or are they just about seeking approval?
Yeah, it's a good reminder to think about whose opinion we're trying to influence with our money.
True wealth is not about appearances. It's about that financial base that gives you choices and freedom in the future.
That's a great point. Now, Chapter 3 tackles something I think a lot of people can relate to: lifestyle creep. It's called Lifestyle Creep: The Silent Wealth Killer.
Uh-oh, the silent wealth killer. That sounds scary.
It can be. What is lifestyle creep exactly?
It's that thing that happens when, you get a raise or a promotion.
Okay, I'm listening.
You start to spend more. You upgrade your lifestyle. Maybe you get a nicer apartment, a newer car, start going on more vacations.
Right. It's like your expenses just naturally rise to meet your income.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Sarin compares 2 people, Ankit, who increases his spending with each raise,
Okay.
and Priya, who keeps her core expenses relatively stable.
So Priya's investing the extra money she's making.
Exactly. The danger with lifestyle creep is that you never actually get ahead. You're just constantly on this treadmill of earning more and spending more.
It's a good point. Just because you're making more doesn't mean you have to spend more.
It's about being intentional with that extra income. Do you want to upgrade your lifestyle now, or do you want to build long-term security?
So a question for our listeners: Have you noticed your spending increasing as your income has gone up? If so, maybe it's time to reevaluate your spending patterns.
Absolutely. Now, chapter 4 is a bit of a shift in gears. It's all about taking action.
Okay, I like that. What's the chapter called?
Show up and take action. And, Saren really addresses this tendency we all have to overthink things.
Procrastination.
Yes. We might tell ourselves we need to do more research or wait for the market to be just right, but...
You'll be waiting forever.
Right. We miss out on valuable time while we're waiting for the perfect moment. So Saren says, just start. Even if it's with a small amount, you'll learn and adjust as you go.
Okay, so it's better to take action and maybe make some small mistakes along the way
Okay.
than to just sit around and do nothing.
Exactly. Those who just start are the ones who benefit from that power of time in the market that we talked about earlier.
You'll learn by doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so taking action, even imperfect action, is better than just planning. I like that.
Chapter 5 gets a bit philosophical. It's called Money is a Responsibility, Not Just a Tool.
That's interesting. So it's not just about accumulating wealth for yourself.
Right. Saren wants us to think about wealth as something that can be used to make a positive impact on the world.
Okay, I'm curious. Give me an example.
So he tells this story about an entrepreneur who, after becoming successful, uses his wealth to start a skill development center in his community.
That's a great example.
So this entrepreneur creates jobs, empowers others, and, gives back to the community.
So money is a tool for positive change.
Exactly. It makes you think about the purpose behind your own financial goals.
Yeah, it's not just about buying a bigger house or a fancier car. It's about what you can do with that wealth to make a difference.
Exactly. Having that sense of responsibility can actually be really motivating.
It adds meaning to your wealth-building journey.
Okay.
What's next?
Chapter 6 is all about making a plan, and it's called Creating a Simple, Repeatable Wealth Plan.
Okay, I like the sound of simple.
Right. Because
Yeah.
building wealth doesn't have to be this super complicated thing. Saren recommends sticking to straightforward strategies.
Like what?
Things like investing in index funds, those are baskets of stocks that track a particular market.
Okay.
Or systematic investment plans, or SIPs, where you regularly invest a fixed amount.
Right, so you automate your saving.
Exactly. And then you just review your goals once a year to make sure you're on track.
That sounds much less overwhelming than trying to time the market or pick individual stocks.
It is. And Saren contrasts this with, chasing after the latest hot investment trend.
Which can be risky, right?
Very risky. So it's about consistency and simplicity.
So you don't need to be a financial expert to build wealth, just consistent and disciplined.
And then finally, we come to chapter 7, which is all about mindset.
Okay, the mental game. What's this chapter called?
Your financial mindset determines your success. And this is so important because Saren argues that your beliefs about money can really impact your financial outcomes.
Makes sense. If you think money is evil, you're probably not going to be very motivated to save it.
Right. He talks about how negative associations with money can actually sabotage your efforts.
Like if you grew up believing that rich people are greedy or that money is the root of all evil.
Yeah, those beliefs can stick with you.
So what's the solution?
Saren suggests that we actively cultivate a more positive view of money. He reframes it as a tool for freedom, security, and impact.
So money is not inherently good or bad. It's how you use it.
Exactly. And it's about identifying any limiting beliefs you might have about money.
And then challenging those beliefs.
Exactly. Because ultimately, your thoughts and feelings about money are going to shape your financial behaviors.
Okay, so we've come to the end of our deep dive into Rohit Saran's Unlocking Wealth. So what's the big takeaway?
I think it's this. Building wealth is possible at any age. It's not about luck or some magic formula.
It's about building good habits, making smart choices, and taking consistent action.
And it's about how you manage and grow what you have, regardless of how much you earn.
Right. It's never too late to start.
Yeah.
So as you think about everything we discuss, what resonates most with you?
Yeah. What's one small step you can take today to start or continue your own wealth-building journey?
Remember, you don't have to do everything at once. Just start somewhere and keep moving forward.
Absolutely. You've got this.
And with that, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Until next time.